Finally, this video is here, and I have read all the books suggested by the Harry style, or all the books recommended by the Harry style, and in this video we are going to talk about all of those books which I personally feel which are good, which are really good, which is kind of boring, which is kind of average, which I don't even like. There are so many books recommended by the Harry style, which is more than 10 plus books, but out of those books there are few books that I have already read. So in this video we are going to talk about that book, and in the next video we are going to talk about those books which I have read for the first time, and there are so many beautiful books which I enjoyed reading. The first book recommended by the Harry style is none other than the Siddhartha, which I have already read this book and which I have already made many videos on this book, and there is a reason why this book is my favorite. So Siddhartha, it's not the concept of the Indian Asian culture, which is more about understanding Buddha or Siddhartha. This is not related to that. Let me clear that on the first note. So this book is completely individual imagination by the Hermann, written after World War I around 90s in the time of the 90s. So Siddhartha is a book about the self-realization about a young Brahman who is into the understanding, or who wants to know how the world works or what are the self-realization. So he goes on the journey of understanding his own life. In this book he realized that there is a life which he taught and there is a life which is a reality. So there is a contradictory between the reality and what he taught. He just wanted to understand what is the actual reality and how you can understand those things. So basically he goes into the fasting mode, he goes into the fear, he goes into the ego, he goes into understanding a woman, he goes into a lot of those things, and all of those things he realized what is actually the self-realization and what is the reality of the life. And if you want to understand the reality of the life, then Siddhartha is a really good book. And if you are from the India, then most probably you will try to connect with the Buddha, but please, it is my usual request that please do not try to connect with this Siddhartha book by the Hermann to the Buddha, otherwise you will ruin all of this material which is available in the book. The next book recommended by the Harry style is Norwegian. Even I have read this book, and this is one of the coolest book I have read. Obviously there is some contradiction in this book as well, but reading Murakami is always a pleasure. So Norwegian Wood is a story about a Toru character जिसका एक friend होता है, high school friend होता है, जो हाई स्कूल के टाइम पे सुसाइड कर लेता है. सो वो फ्रेंड हाई स्कूल के टाइम पे सुसाइड कर लेता है, एंड देयर इज अ लाइफ हैपेंस, एंड दिस बुक स्टार्ट्स व्हेन ही इज 37 years old. सो बेसिकली उसका हाई स्कूल फ्रेंड जब सुसाइड कर लेता है उस टाइम, सो उसकी गर्लफ्रेंड होती है नाकोवा. ऑब्वियसली नेम आर वेरी डिफरेंट, सो प्लीज फॉरगिव मी फॉर दैट. सो नाकोवा गर्लफ्रेंड के साथ ही फॉल्स इन लव विद द नाकोवा गर्लफ्रेंड. उन दोनों का सब कुछ अच्छा चल रहा होता है, बट नाकोवा इज काइंड ऑफ लिटिल बिट सेल्फ टॉर्चर्ड. उसके बॉयफ्रेंड की वजह से वो सेल्फ टॉर्चर में जाती है, एंड शी गोज इनटू द मेंटल हॉस्पिटल. बट टोरू प्रॉमिस करता है नाकोरा कि जब तक तुम आओगी तब तक आई विल वेट फॉर यू, आई विल डू एवरीथिंग फॉर यू, आई विल वेट, देन वी विल हैव अ हैप्पी लाइफ, दैट काइंड ऑफ अ सिनेरियो. बट in the meanwhile, as there is always a twist in the book, Toru falls in love with the Midori, another character in this book, and they both are trying to mingle, they both are get into the relationship, and lot of things happen. Then ये सारी चीजें नाओको को पता चल जाती है, and she kill herself. सारी चीजों की वजह से टोरू को गिल्ट फील होता है. And what is the ending of this book? I'm not going to tell you, because this is an interesting fact, or this is an interesting book at the end of this book, that Norwegian Wood. So if you really wanted to understand the story, then make sure you go check out this book. Harry Style has read this book. That is something really interesting, because Haruki Murakami, something, those are the books which is kind of connecting the universe, something out of the world. Those are a kind of a Haruki Murakami books. But this is also my favorite book, and I already made one video on that, so you can go check out that video as well. But this is the story about this book, and I really enjoyed reading this book. The next book I read is In Watermelon Sugar by Richard. This book is representation of the people who live, love and die around a community. It's called I-Death, I-D-E-A-T-H. सो आई डेथ एक कम्युनिटी होती है जहाँ पे लोग ऐसे जहाँ पे काम करते थे और वहाँ पे सब कुछ अपनी लाइफ स्पेंड करते थे, एंड दे यूज्ड टू डाई देयर. प्रोबेबली द सॉन्ग इज बेस्ड ऑन दिस दिस बुक एज वेल, बिकॉज देयर इज अ फोटो ऑफ द हैरी स्टाइल अबाउट दिस बुक. इन दिस बुक द स्पेसिफिकली नैरेटर की जो होता है, जो अपना नाम कभी नहीं बताता बट वो स्टोरीज बताता है अबाउट द आई डेथ. वहाँ पे कैसे टाइगर आ गया, सारे रेसिडेंट्स को उसने खा लिया और किल कर दिया. सो दीज आर द स्टोरीज ही we talk about it, including the narrator parents as well. So narrator parents को भी उस tiger ने मार दिया था. Color of watermelon and the story of the idet changes every day. So narrator has a girlfriend called Margareta, जो कि उसकी पहले लवर थी, अभी वो किसी और लड़की के साथ है और उसका नाम है पॉलिन. बेसिकली पॉलिन ये होती है कि जिसके पास सारी चीजें होती है जो मार्गरेटा के पास नहीं होती, एंड दैट्स द रीजन दे बोथ आर इन love with each other. And there is another trash pile called the Forgotten Worth, जिसके बारे में I'm not gonna talk about because it will reveal a lot of secrets about this book. But talking about this book, I kind of enjoyed reading this book, The Watermelon Sugar. In Watermelon Sugar, it's a kind of a different book for me, and when I read first time, the first 50% of the book is something I really liked, but when the story started to unfold, the story started to begin, then little bit of I felt average kind of a scene for this book. I have no idea how Harry Styles has come up with these recommendations, but if you are the person who loves so many drama, then you are definitely going to enjoy in Watermelon Sugar. Next, and my most favorite book of all of these recommended book is called Essays in Love. It's one of the one of the best romantic book I read because I love romantic stuff. And this book is definitely worth the time, because this book is basically talk about the two young people who fall in love while traveling. Basically they meet at the aeroplane between London to Paris, and in this between they start talking to each other, they start doing their first thing, they literally fall in love while this journey, and they do everything. The structure of the story is really different. It's not simply कि यार दो लोग प्यार में पड़ जाते हैं and everything, but he also talks about the modern relationship. There is an entire chapter on this book about just on the dating purpose, like how their first date went. उसके बारे में dedicated chapter, and there is another chapter which talks about how and when to say I love you. I mean, that is something we really need, because either we say it too early or either we say it too late, and that is something we as a Gen Z millennial we face a lot of time. And there is one essay or the chapter which talk about how it is difficult to disagree with other person choice or other person taste. This book is definitely a worth read because it talk very mature way, philosophical, psychological way about the romance, and that is something our modern life still required to understand. If you have already watched the 500 Days of the Summer movie, then you will able to connect with this book, because 500 Days of the Summer and this book are run on the parallel lines. Definitely recommended. It is one of my becoming the favorite book recommended by the Harry Styles. Next book, which is the prequel of the previous book, that is Essays of Love, is The Course of Love by the same author who is a philosopher and who talks a lot about love. Okay, the second book is released almost after the 20 years of the Essays of Love, and because we already have that, so I have finished that. The only one thing I liked about this book is love is a skill. Like you have to develop the love. Other than that, you cannot do a lot of things. That is something I learned from this book, The Course of Love. Otherwise, this book is little bit average as compared to the Essays of Love. Probably this is only my take, but you guys can find out interesting as well. This book is cost you around 200-300 rupees, but you can definitely check out this book. So this book is again the prequel or the sequel of the previous book, Essays of Love. वहाँ पे दो people मिलते हैं, but this talk about कि उस first book में it's more about दो लोग मिलते हैं and they start getting into the relationship. But this book is more about what happens when you spend a lot of time with the same person. What are the problems you face? What are the problems you are going to face in the relationship, mentally, physically? A lot of things that talk about with the shared life. So that is something The Course of the Love is this book is all about that. It's again the same, the two people talking about the sharing their life and everything. So the previous book and this is the second book is a kind of continuous part. So if you want to read, then make sure you read both the books to understand love. The only takeaway for me from this book is all about love is a skill, and you have to put effort, you have to put everything into that to make it that beautiful. The next book I read is My Policeman by Bethan. Wow, I mean literally wow, this book is just amazing. So I finished reading this book like 2 weeks back, and I just trying to connect all the thoughts of all the heart-twitching stories that I read in this book. So basically talk about this book is all about the three people, a love triangle between Tom, Patrick and the Marianne. So इन तीनों के बीच में ये basically love triangle है. Story is about what happens when a gay man is not able to open up about his sexuality, feeling, instead of trying to marry a woman because of the society and the respectfulness. ये book basically start होती है Marian starting to write a letter about her past and she tried to speak about उसका कैसे क्रश था टॉम पे and टॉम उसके बेस्ट फ्रेंड का भाई था, something related to that. This book is specifically talk about the sexuality and the homosexuality about one people and how that can affect to a lot of people, and if you are only thinking about the society culture and not thinking about your own feelings and everything, then this is a kind of a really slow book, let me tell you, but it's just a wonderful book. If you love understanding those kind of concepts, then My Policeman is morely focused on what happens when a person try to hide their sexuality or try to hide their feelings about something. This book is also great talking about what happens, what is the woman's role in a society and in her family. I found this book really, clever and powerful, so I will highly recommend you to read My Policeman if you have the patience to understand everything in details. These are the books that I have read recommended by Harry Style. Obviously there are part 2 will be there and that is also coming soon. So stay tuned for that and make sure you subscribe for that channel. Also join the newsletter if you want secret sauce, detailed analysis, detailed understanding about my personal life, then make sure you join the newsletter as well. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye, take care.